I think what a lot of people do is when they start up, they're like, well, I could do this all on my own. I don't need help, And when I started, I had that attitude. I can do this on my own. I don't need anybody's help. But then I noticed slowly over time, you kind of do. Sometimes you just need someone just to ask a question to. You could be beating your head against the wall for 5 hours, and then you can just give someone a simple call, and they're like, just do it this way. And you're like, yeah, you're right.
Welcome to Built in Vegas, the podcast where we spotlight the stories, strategies, and resources behind the businesses that make Vegas thrive. Whether you're starting up or scaling up, you're in the right place. Brought to you by the Video Podcast Studio.
What made you want to get into entrepreneurship in the first place? Is it something that you've always knew you were going to do as a kid, or did something happen, or how did you fall into entrepreneurship?
I always kind of found a way to make extra money one way or another, like through my 20s and such, like little side endeavors, whether that's flipping furniture or just buying and reselling things. I always kind of had a knack for that to some degree. And I always did freelance design as well. So I always had one way to make extra money, but never really had that final push to really get into something. It wasn't really till my mid-30s is when I had that push. I had kind of like a industrial type accident that broke most of me. And it was kind of during that rehabilitation time, learning a little bit more about myself and what my wants and needs are for myself. That's kind of when I decided I don't really want to work for anyone anymore, and I can figure it out. So that's what kind of started that whole journey on that.
Yeah. And then how did you end up where you end up?
I started in law enforcement in my 20s, and that's kind of how all of this builds up to this story. So I started in the law enforcement, third generation in first responder. So that whole part of life, I always understood and get more than most. And always did graphic design through school and everything, but I always associated with art with not being profitable. So I never really took it too seriously. I did and I didn't. I was one of those weird guys. And that's why I got into law enforcement. I was like, I can make money doing that, And then I kind of decided it wasn't really for me anymore after some trials and tribulations and such, and kind of just kept doing what I was doing with design work. And then I got into, the civilian world doing architectural graphic design or sports design or those types of things, but still had my background involved in it. And like I said, it wasn't until I had that accident to where I was like laid up in bed literally for like 2 years, couldn't do anything, just on my laptop. I had different departments reaching out to me. Hey, can you make this for us? Can you design this for us? This, that, and the other. And that's kind of how I really started in like first responder design. And one of my clients, they requested if I can print apparel for them. And I was like, no, I don't have that capability. And they ended up pushing it off to another company to do it. And I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was they took my work and advertised it as their own. And that was like, well, no, I'm done here. I could figure out how to print shirts. How hard is that? Well, I completely misjudged that. And it's been a learning curve ever since. But yeah, that's kind of what, it was just a slow evolution. It was a very natural, slow evolution to how I got from where I started to where I am now.
What do you think has been like the hardest thing about your entrepreneur journey so far?
Oh, man, starting a business is so difficult. Like I thought it was going to be easy. I really did. Like I have a couple business mentors that I talk to, and they always told me if you can make it past the first 2 years, you'll be fine. I really believe it's the first 3 years. I really do. I feel like the 2 years is like, okay, I'm here, but that mark from year 2 to 3 is that last final push where you prove to the community and your customer base that you're still around. You can prove to yourself that you're still around, somehow still making it work. And I can honestly say at this point, my company, Valiant Supply, we've been alive for 2.5 years now, and it's just now starting to comfortably pick up to a certain degree where I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need to go out and sell every day, but it's still nice when I can go out and do that. Because I put a face-to-face with every single one of my clients. I don't treat our client base like customers. It's always a very one-on-one, talking with captains or lieutenants or sergeants or police officers or fire. Everyone's on a first-name basis with me. And as much as my company will grow, I will always somehow be the face of that, just because that's what everyone associates with. Because when I started, I was literally in my garage and moved into our shop, I think less than 3 months later. And I somehow grew a garage business into a national brand in 2 years. So it's growing exponentially, but I still make sure at the end of the day we're humble and we make sure everyone's treated the same way they were when we first started from day one. So
that's awesome. I think a lot of people lose sight of that, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, you grow the business because of the customer service, because of that personalized touch, and then you get to a certain level and that kind of deteriorates because you get too busy or this or that. So that's really cool that you guys are keeping that.
Well, I've managed, I have an office manager now. She helps me quite a bit. She answers all the emails and phone calls and texts and social media. It's just all these different elements of communication throughout the day. And there's only so many hours that I can be available. So having more staff definitely helps me communicate more with people, or her setting up meetings and this, that, and the other. But, there was a video I watched, I think a year and a half ago, where it was like most founders or CEOs, they make a mistake by growing their brand too quickly or their company too quickly. And I just kind of looked at that and scoffed. And I'm like, yeah, well, what's the big deal with that? Well, no, it's actually a big deal because you have to figure out logistics. Like we do stuff from here all the way to Vermont. So, logistically, it's trying to figure all that out too, making sure all of our clients' fire departments or police departments are served correctly. On to make sure they have top priority every single day. So all of our client base, we try to make sure they always have top priority and don't feel like, secondhand, so it's been difficult in that regard.
Yeah. I think going back to what we talked about earlier was, when you got into business, you thought it'd be easy. I think most people feel that way.
Yeah.
They go like, oh, I could do this. It's easy. All I have to do is this. And it's there's so many layers to it. There's so many things, even myself. So I've kind of owned my own business since I was 21 and I'm 37 now. Mm-hmm. And 2 years ago, I decided to open up the podcast studio. And I told my wife, I was give me 6 months. We'll be up and running. Everything will be good. We'll replace our income from what I've been doing for the past 17 years. No problem. I got this. And then 6 months later, I was have half a room done. And I'm like, dude, what are we doing? This is so much harder than I thought. There's so many learning curves that I had to get through. And then I got really intentional. I told her, I was give me 2 years before we start trying to market, before we start trying to grow, because I want to be really intentional with what we're doing.
Right.
And I don't want to get a ton of clients and not be able to fulfill it the right way. So we've been pretty intentional about not trying to get sales, although we're still getting clients and people finding us in marketing. And I'm glad that we've done it that way, because I think if we would have been busier, we would have ruined our name very quickly.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have the right systems in place to help us be organized.
Yeah.
And as a creative, I'm not very organized.
I'm the same exact way, man. My desk looks like it doesn't look good. I'm probably the most organized person in this. Even the desktop on my computer is a mess. So I get it in that regard. But yeah, it's definitely something that people just don't look at when you start. What are my successes going to look like, or what are my failures going to look like, and how do I handle that? And then how do I just keep moving forward? That's what I do. I just wake up every day and I'm like, all right, it's another day. Let's just move forward. Because some days are great, and then some days you're just like, why did I get myself into this? Some months you're going to have a complete profit loss where you're just like, well, how is rent going to get paid now? Or you have a month where you're like, okay, we're good for the next 6 months. So it's a very weird roller coaster that I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't actually mentally set themselves up for. I think they just think it's going to be a constant stream of money, especially if they do what I did. I just went all in. I wasn't working another job. I was just like, well, this is my job now. So I went all in mentally, and I lost relationships out of it and made some people upset, and just kind of just worked 18-hour days for a year and a half straight. And I just didn't care. But you have to have that drive in you to make it successful. Even when you think everything's going good, it's not. You just don't open your email and you're like, oh, well, back to the drawing board. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I feel like that never changes. This is becoming a common theme of no matter where you are in your entrepreneur journey, it's incredibly difficult, right? The problems just change. From going from zero to your first 100K, from your 100K to 500, from 500 to million to million plus.
Yeah.
It's the nonstop feeling of drowning, as I always explain it.
Oh,
it's just always there.
It's always there. Even
the good months, you're like, okay, I kind of have some room to breathe.
Yeah.
But you still know that something's tugging you back down. You just don't know what it is yet.
Yep.
Right. And because in the video world, it's kind of the same thing. Like I don't do retainers, and the studio is a little bit different because we're offering like memberships and stuff now. And so I'm looking forward to like having somewhat of a consistent income.
Right.
You know, but like in the video production world that I've done for so long, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, I have to keep my bank account a certain amount because I got to pay everybody. And we might barely make any money this month, but then make enough money next month for like the next 6 months.
Right.
We just, you know, it doesn't know because it kind of just ebbs and flows, and we don't have that consistent, like, oh, every single month we're getting X.
Yep.
So that's the one thing that's been nice about the studio, though, because it's a little bit different. We have a few membership options. Some of our non-membership clients are somewhat consistent, and we've been able to see, okay, like on average, we're doing this a month. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of nice because, like, okay, I can kind of plan for hiring people. I can kind of plan, and not like with the production company is like, okay, well, like literally, like we might make, you know, I might make like $4,000 next month, but then make 50 or 60 the following month.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Or I might go 3 months with not making money, you know? And I think
it can happen.
I think people that don't jump into entrepreneurship, they don't understand that. They just think like, oh, everything's great and you're a business owner, and oh, you probably barely work and you just make all this money.
It's very true. It's very true. People have me on speed dial, like, oh, I can call him in the middle of the day to help me move a couch, you know, that type of stuff, you know, and people definitely have a outlook on it where they think that I'm free and accessible to do whatever I want. For instance, I worked till 3 a.m. last night, and here I am this morning, you know, like that's just one of those grinds that most people don't really honestly set themselves up for, you know?
Yeah. I mean, same thing here in the studio. Like people see the studio, and because it's nice, they're like, oh, this must have been easy. You guys must be killing. I'm like, dude, we're new.
Yeah.
Like we need clients.
Yeah.
I was like, I literally sleep in the couch in the waiting room probably 3 times out of the week, working here till 3, 4 a.m. Yep. And, you know, like nobody sees that effort. And so they just see the social media posts of these online gurus talking about how they make all this money in their sleep, right? And that's what they think entrepreneurship is.
Yeah.
I remember there was a time my brother was telling me that a couple of his friends on this trip they went on were like complaining about me. Like, oh, he has it so easy. He just makes all this money and doesn't even have to work for it. I was like, I've been in business for 15 years, dude. Yeah. Like, you guys just started 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, give it 15 years and you'll probably be further along than I am because I'm not even in that great of a place either. Like,
exactly.
You know, but I think that's one thing, too, like you mentioned, is you went all in.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people that try to, like, dabble in entrepreneurship.
Oh, you'll never take it seriously. Like, if you start a business, anything in regards to entrepreneurship, and you're still working part-time, what you're trying to do will always be part-time in your head. It'll never. Now, there's outliers, like there's successes in that regard, but more often than not, I believe that if you're starting something up and you're still working for someone else, that person doesn't care what you're doing. That person's not going to care if you say, hey, boss, I need to get off today at 2 because I have this going on, or you call in because you have a sales meeting. They don't care. They still treat you as an employee, and you're still mentally going to treat yourself as their employee. So I always tell folks, if you're going to start something, you have to go all in, because you will test yourself very quickly on your mental fortitude on how far you want to go.
Well, if you're not all in, you're not all in. Yeah. Right? It's really hard to grow a business like if you're not really in it.
Yeah.
Like I even say when I like kind of mentor a few people, it's like even with the studio, like realistically, I need to give up production completely and just focus on the studio, because the studio is way more important to me. Mm-hmm. But it's scary because all my income is from the production clients still. So I've tailored it back a lot. Like it's literally just like the maybe 20% clients I had, and they just called me up, and I don't pursue work, but it still funds everything for me. But even then, I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, I really need to like pretty much just cut that off and really go all in on this. But it's so scary to take that step when you're not making, you know, if you're in the very beginning, you're not making any money doing it. Yeah. Or if you're in that kind of in-between phase where it's like, it's not really replacing our income. And like I was telling you before the show, like my son plays hockey, right? That's not cheap. You know?
No, hockey's not a cheap sport at all. It's one of the most expensive, you know.
Yeah, especially with all the traveling we do.
Yeah.
I think out of the next 4 weeks, we travel 3 of them. And then the 1 week we're not traveling, he has something here in town. And so, and it's summer, like, it's not even the season.
Yeah, I know.
But yes, I think that's something that entrepreneurs, if they're considering getting in, they need to know. Like, you got to be in this. You got to put in the work, and it's not easy. And if you feel like you're struggling, you're putting all this work, you're not seeing the fruits of your labor. I think it's important to remember what you talked about earlier. Like the first year is probably going to suck. Second year is not going to be great.
No, yeah.
You know, the third year, I feel like it really is that, like, okay, you've proven this.
Yeah.
You're probably at a point where you're making decent money, probably still not where probably your goals are.
Yeah.
And then, but you've established your name, you've built those relationships, and then it doesn't get easier, but I feel like it begins to snowball.
Right. Well, my business has been proving its own challenges in regard, because we don't typically advertise. We don't advertise just because of our client base, you know, because we work with law enforcement and fire, military, federal government, all that. So I always kind of felt like it was a sellout move if I advertise. You know, had some opportunity to possibly advertise with the Golden Knights and all these types of things, and never really felt like it was going to work. So growing the business has all just been straight grassroots and word of mouth. So I've been fortunate in that regard. And like I said, we're coming up on 3 years in August, and now people will just show up to the business and like, oh, I found you from this person, or I found you from social or this, and we didn't know you existed. How long have you been here? I'm like, oh, 2 years. And they're like, oh, wow. You know, so I really feel like at the 3 year mark, that's when the light bulb really starts to click for people that what you're doing just isn't an experiment, and you're going to be there for the long term. You know?
Yeah, well, because so many businesses pop up, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even in my industry, so we're only about 2 years old, 2 years and a couple months. So similar to you, actually.
Yeah.
And in this time, I've seen a bunch of studios pop up, but there's probably been 5 that popped up around when we did and all already shut down.
Well, you know, another thing I like to tell folks is when they are starting their own thing, because obviously my industry is extremely niche. If you're going to start an entrepreneur type endeavor in any direction, what you go into, you have to solve that problem of what you're trying to accomplish, because there's so much oversaturation in everything. Everyone, like you said, everyone's starting something, all those multiple podcast studios and all this, but it's like, what's the problem you're solving to make someone walk through your door? Like, what can you offer them to make them walk through the door? If you're just one of the other 5 and that's it, like, good luck, you know?
Well, and that was the thing. A lot of the people that popped up in this industry, they just saw the industry kind of booming, and they're like, oh, we want to get in.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the background in film.
Right.
Like, for us, we actually specialize in helping businesses. We're not really here for content creators. We're here to help businesses leverage our space to build relationships, to build connections, create content that does the same. But more importantly, once again, it's like that opening the door to like relationships. So like, if you wanted to reach out to some department that you've been trying to get a hold of, and instead of a cold email that they don't respond to, or like, hey, let me take you to lunch, and they don't respond to it, it's like, hey, I have this podcast where we talk about X, Y, and Z, and I'd love to bring you on. Right. And then people are more willing to come on, and you get to meet cool people. So like, I like it because it's a networking tool. And originally when I got into this industry, it was like kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, I know that businesses need this. It's fairly easy to do.
Right.
We can kind of do like a affordable and just scale model. And then once we, like 6 months into it, and the clients that started naturally come in, I realized they needed so much more help, because almost all of our clients are brand new to content creation and podcasting. Right. And so we realized that we can't be your average studio where you're just time slots. Like, we have to actually care, and we have to actually guide them and offer a lot of support. And so that's what we do. Like, it doesn't matter if you spend $20 here or you're on a membership, like, we're going to give you support. We're going to give you guidance, even if you don't even use our studio. Like, we just want to be that like beacon of support and help and guidance. And I think that's what will help us stand out. And once again, like, we're here for the businesses, not the creators, although they're welcome to use our studio. But, and that's what I think that's what helped us, because it's different. And I think as a business owner, you got to find what makes you different. What's your superpower? What do you bring to the table, like you just mentioned? Right.
Yeah. No, it's a necessary, vital part if you want to be successful. You have to find the niche and how you're going to make it better, how you're going to problem solve. You know, like for me, I knew here locally, because Valiant's a uniform supply store. That's basically what it's boiled down to. Here locally, the online accessibility was almost non-existent. I think there's one competitor that uses online capability, but the other ones don't. So I knew going forward, it had to be a strong online presence. in order for it to maybe be something. So, you know, like when ValiantSupply.com was being built, you know, my best friend and I, we made sure that every department had its own particular product sec page. And it was basically built to be first responder Amazon is really what it was. You know, all the products that we use, they're all vetted through the departments and they're all approved at the highest level. And they know exactly where they're going to get every single time. So it gives them confidence, you know, and it's like firemen and cops, they work very weird shifts, and them just being able to pull out their phone and order a new duty hat or shirt as needed. You have no idea, but that little thing made such a huge difference. You know, like it holds the staff accountable, you know, and the departments can use it freely, where it's like there's no more excuses to look grungy. You know, you can have your own stuff. And just having that little edge when I started, it really helped quite a bit. And then especially for us being able to build nationally, like I have some departments that we service that I've never even met them. We just talk on the phone or have a Zoom meeting, and that's that. And everything's just through snail mail, sending samples back and forth. And once the online portal's set up, that's it, you know? So that was my problem solving for the industry I was getting into. But just because I solved that little problem, there's still 10 million more I'm still trying to figure out. But, you know, that was the mainstay when I started. That was the idea. That was the light bulb.
That's cool. What's your favorite thing about what you get to do every day?
Well, I still get to interact with my buddies, you know, like I can still talk to all my cop friends and all my fireman friends, and I can still be in that loop, because even though I'm not in it professionally anymore, I can still maintain all my relationships, you know. And my clients, they like coming to me and my company, because I like to say that we understand their wants and needs right when they walk through the door. And that helps me every single day when I come in, because I'm like, at least I know the work's appreciated, and the guys and gals, they really appreciate it, because I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. I know that in the world, but you know, in my world, they still deserve cool stuff too, you know, so, and they get excited for their cool stuff. So
cool. What's your least favorite thing about entrepreneurship?
All the admin stuff, you know, like I try to keep it off the cuff, man. Like I'm just a designer at heart, you know, like I'm an artist at heart. Like I'm kind of loosey goosey in that regard, you know, and when I design I still have half that artist brain where I tell a client, oh yeah, I'll get to it when I can, or this or that. And they're used to working with me in that regard, but it's just the admin stuff. And then also like my design freedom sometimes gets cut, where it's just, this is what it has to be. You need to make this. And there isn't really any artistic freedom anymore. So every once in a while, I'll still go down a rabbit hole just to like refine myself, you know, in that regard. But the admin stuff, that's why I have my office manager do it now, because I was never fond of it. Or shipping stuff sucks too. You know, doing shipping labels all day and sending stuff out, sometimes that could take hours and hours and hours, believe it or not. So, but as you grow, that's why you hire staff, and they enjoy doing that part of it. I mean, they really do. Like, I'm just not passing off the bad work. That's what they do. They do it very well. And it gives me more time to do what I like to do, you know, which is the design and dealing with customers and making stuff. You know, I love doing stuff with my hands, you know.
Yeah, I was just talking about this to a friend/client of ours on the podcast called Salvation, about like when you go to hire and like pass off work, you can't just pass off the work that you don't like doing to other people who don't like doing that work. Yeah. You need to find people out there who love it, right? Who love being super organized and doing admin stuff, who love dealing with people, who love just sitting in the warehouse packing stuff all day. Like there's people who actually love that stuff, which sometimes seems crazy to me, because I'm like staring at a screen and just like looking at like project management stuff. Like I couldn't ever do that all day. But then like we just brought on a girl that's like her passion. Like she loves it. She loves building out systems, and I'm like, perfect. Yeah. We have a lot of systems to be built out.
Yeah. There's something for everybody, believe it or not. Like when I do hiring, you know, I make sure everyone that comes through the door, they actually have a level that they can bring to the table, to where everyone's heard, everyone has their own level of expertise, and it's just a built trust that I'm trying to build in the foundation of Valiant right now, to where I can do things like this. I don't have to worry about anything going on there right now, because I know everyone there has it handled, you know. And it's difficult in hiring when you want those goals. It takes a little bit longer, but I'm more of a quality over quantity type of a guy in terms of hiring practices. You know, I want to make sure everyone legitimately has something to bring. Like, Not just like, oh, I can do this. It's like, can you really do it? And can you do it effectively every single day and love it every single day? Because if you don't love it, then it'll start to taper down, and then we're gonna know that you don't actually love it, you know. And I've had an instance like that where I thought someone was gonna work out like really great, and they worked really hard. It wasn't working, you know. And sometimes that just happens, and it's just you learn from that experience, and you're like, okay, next time we do hiring, this is how we're gonna go through that method now, you know. Building an effective team. It's like, what is it when people draft and all that, you know, you got to be very selective in your choices. If you are serious and you love your business, you know, you have to be.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the hardest thing of like new entrepreneurship is going from solopreneur to building a team.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to know how to hire the right people. Yeah. It's hard to fire. Like,
yeah, it's not fun.
So hard.
It's not fun. It's actually it's not fun. You know, like it's not a fun thing. You know, I feel bad. Like I said, I'm a nice guy. Like I'm like I don't. Especially when someone's working for you, you know, that's their livelihood. You know, like they're paying the bills they earn. You know, like they're paying their bills with money they've earned working here. You know, and when it's not working out, you know, that's going to cease to exist. It adds. I don't know how people do it. Like I'm not good at it. Like no. It's not a comfortable thing to do at all.
No, if you ask me what my least favorite part is, like give me 18-hour days of work, I don't mind. It takes its toll on you, but I don't mind. But having to like deal with problems with people in the workplace, I'm just not confrontational.
Yeah,
I try to be too nice, and I'm learning how to be a lot more like. These are the parameters, these are the rules. And that's actually like our operations manager. I'm like, hey, you are better at this.
Yeah.
And you don't take it as personally. I take it like they're my family. Like if I brought them in here and they're willing to help me on my goals and they're willing to put in the work here, you know, to me, it's like, okay, like you've given me so much and I just feel so like bad and awkward if I have to. That's my least favorite thing. Like it's just, but it's something I have to learn and entrepreneurs have to learn along this journey, because if you're not hiring the right people and if you're not firing the wrong people, like it can kill your business.
It really can. It really can. Like that one instance that it was like a profit loss month, you know, just from mistakes, and it was just can't do it anymore, you know, and that I know for a fact that if that person was still it would have been bad, you know. And it's like that's when you have to just kind of pull up your big boy pants and you're like, well, this is not going to be comfortable, but it's for the longevity of what we're doing, you know. And great human being, just not a great in that regard, you know. It's just sometimes that happens, and you have to be okay with knowing that they can be a great human being, they're just not working out for you. And that doesn't mean they're not going to go work out somewhere else, but it's not in that instance, you know.
Exactly. So. If you could give one piece of advice to an early entrepreneur or somebody who wants to get started, what would it be?
Surround yourself with like-minded people. And what I mean by that is I have business mentors that I go to every once in a while for help. I have about 4 that I can think of off the top of my head that I know that I can go talk to them about whatever, any time of the day. Walk in their office, I can call them, I could text them. Just experts in the field that I'm in as well, like when it comes to apparel printing or embroidery or design or whatever. And to me, it's always a good thing to fall back on, because it's like if you start a business, you have your friends and your family are immediately around you, you know, and they're hoorahing you. They get it, but they don't really get it. You know, they're just like, keep working hard. You keep that grind. Oh, honey, you look so tired. You know, next week will be better. That's the support you get from your friends and family. But when you have support from like-minded mentors or just people around you, they get it. You can go to them and be like, what am I doing wrong? Or can you maybe look at my P&L and see what you think about that? You know, or what do you think of this design? Or how do you think this should be printed? You know, I'm going to print it this way. How would you do it? And when you can actually get actual real-time feedback back, where as a professional courtesy, like, hey, this is what I would do, or this is what you should do. It's not wrong to be humble in that regard. Like I think what a lot of people do is when they start up, they're like, well, I could do this all on my own. I don't need help, you know. And when I started, I had that attitude. I can do this on my own. I don't need anybody's help. But then I noticed slowly over time, you kind of do. Sometimes you just need someone just to ask a question to. You know, you could be beating your head against the wall for 5 hours, and then you can just give someone a simple call, and they're like, just do it this way. And you're like, yeah, you're right. You know, that's why I always tell folks, it's like, if you're gonna start something, it's not a bad idea just to meet some people. It's hard. Believe it or not, it's hard for me to just go make a friend with a random human. It really is. Like, I'm just not that type. Once I get to know you, I could talk to you all day long, but just getting to that point's a little difficult. But, you know, just dealing with some of the folks that I did when I first started, because I didn't know how to screen print. I was learning embroidery. Like I said, I was just a designer. So some stuff was being outsourced. And it's like the people that I outsourced stuff to ended up becoming my business mentors, where I was just like, hey, that's really cool. How did you do that? And you just slowly build a relationship. And it sounds kind of weird. To me, it's helped me quite a bit, because I know I can rely on them as a resource any given time of the day.
Yeah, sometimes we're just so in the business that we can't take that step away to see what the problem is. And sometimes it's a simple solution, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. You know, I had a client of mine who's very successful. We were talking on the phone once, and he was like, hey, by the way, if you ever have questions about business, I was like, yes. Yeah. Yes, I do. Like,
use that. Cash that in, you know,
like,
when you need
if you ever want to, I was like, yes. Like, when can we meet? You tell me when, where, whatever. Like, I need to fly you to Paris. Like, let's go. Like, your time's, I understand how valuable his time is and the knowledge. And I remember the first time we met, like, there's like a couple things we were talking about. I was trying to build a different business at the time. And like, he was just like, I had a question, and he's just like, the answer was just so simple. Yeah. And he's like, well, like, and like my goals were so small. And he's like, why wouldn't you just do this? And I was like, well, that's like scary. He's like, but like, let's work backwards. This. And I was like, oh wait, like I could do that over 5 to 10 years. Like, that doesn't seem hard at all, actually. Right. And like, it was just like the simplest stuff to him. Yeah. Because of the experience, the growth, the struggles he's had. Yeah. That, like, you know. And anytime I mentor anybody or like offer advice, I always tell them, like, I can see a lot of stuff that you can't see to get to where I'm at. Yeah. Getting past where I'm at, like, I don't know, because I'm not there. I haven't been through it. I got ideas and theories, but I'm in the midst of it, trying to figure out, how do I get to that next level? How do I build something bigger than me? Yeah. I can help solopreneurs. I know how to do that all day long, but trying to get to that next level, trying to, you know, like, I want multiple locations in the next couple of years. You know, I want to see a team. I want to build like an executive team that's running it all. Like, I want to scale this, you know, with the vision that we have. But you got to find people that have been there in the industry, around the industry, even outside of the industry. And then don't be afraid. Like, don't be too prideful to ask for help because.
Well, that could be, it's detrimental to people. When I said, when I first started, I was very headstrong. Like, oh, I could do this on my own. I don't need any help. Business entrepreneurship beats you down very quickly, like, in the most humble way. Like, and I mean that in every bit of honesty. Like, you think you're somebody when you start, and it really molds you into like who you actually are. Like, it's like deep-rooted therapy very, very quickly. Like, years and years of deep-rooted therapy, you're going to figure yourself out within the first, if you're working every single day to accomplish whatever goal you have set, I would say within the first 6 months, you're like, oh, this is who I really am under all these layers, you know? And it's sometimes, like, for me, it was kind of a hard mirror to look at, where I'm like, well, I'm going to have to swallow the pill. I'm going to have to ask some people for help and really figure out what I need to do to be successful, rather than just telling everyone I'm fine, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a long, hard journey of self-discovery.
Yeah. Oh, it really is.
Yeah. You're pushing yourself to the limits. Like you said, there's plenty of nights, you know, you said it earlier, where you're just like, why did I decide to do this?
Yeah, I do that probably once every 2 weeks, to be honest with you, where I'll text my best friend. We actually had a conversation last night. I'm like, what if this? And he's like, it's not. Don't worry about it. You know, like, there's always, I believe, if you don't have self-doubt, you're not doing it right. Or if you think you're doing wonderfully, you're definitely doing it wrong. Because, like, I always tell people, they're like, man, how's the business doing? I'm like, it's fine. You know, like, it's still fine. Like, there's still a lot of work to be done. You know, there's always work to be done. You know, I think that's a lot of missteps too people take, as they get a first couple good months in, and they think that they're the next Instagram entrepreneur influencer, you know, and that is not the case. That is not the case at all. You just have to not think that way. You just have to think every single day is the last day this thing's going to exist, and what do I have to do to keep it moving? That's how I think, at least. I always think the boat's sinking, even though it's fine. I always feel like that little cork in the floor is going to pop out and the water is going to start flowing in at any given point. So that's just how I am.
I think when we get too complacent,
yes,
we fall backwards.
Yes, exactly.
Right. The world is constantly spinning. It's constantly moving.
Yep.
And if we stop, the world around us keeps going. Other people are constantly trying to take your clients.
Yes.
Other people are constantly trying to do this. They're constantly trying to put you out of business.
Yep.
Right. So if you aren't constantly innovating, you're not constantly pushing, you're not constantly working sales, constantly building relationships, right? Constantly pushing yourself and growing, then you are going to fail.
Yep.
Right. And like I'm in a similar boat where it's probably weekly or multiple times a week. I'm like, why did I decide to do this?
Yep.
Like life was so much easier and simple before I decided to open like a brick and mortar location, and way less overhead, way less stress, way less work. Like I had a pretty decent life going for me, but I wanted to build something bigger. I wanted to build a team. I wanted to employ. I wanted to build something where I can go on vacation with my family,
Yeah.
and then we're still making money.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like, no, if I'm not working, like nobody's making money.
Yeah.
And, it's definitely worth it, but there's so many times like you said, like finding people who get that, right? Because I think like your spouse doesn't get it unless she's an entrepreneur, right? Like she might see what you're going through, but she doesn't get it. Like my wife, I think we've been married, like 9 years now. And I think she's just starting to peel back the first layer of like what I go through.
Yeah.
And she's starting to realize like, oh, like I just thought like you love every day and like that this was never stressful or hard for you. I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's and that's the thing people don't realize too about entrepreneurship. It'll really test your relationships, man. Like it really does. Like I said earlier, I lost a relationship when I first started all of this, and it's like now I'm in a relationship with someone who fully supports and gets what I do. And it's a complete polar opposite, like it's just so supportive, and it's interesting, and it to me, like when I started, I was like, man, like I started this for us, and now you don't want to be here no more, like, okay, so that was a hard pill to swallow. But honestly, this whole thing, as hard and stressful as it's been, I'm the happiest I've ever been, and it's like having to share that with somebody who gets it, and supports it is a better element too. But a lot of people misstep that too when they start starting a business. Like, is my relationship going to last through this or not?
Nah, I told my wife because I knew it was going to be hard. I had the misconception that this would be a little bit easier because of like all my experience.
Yeah.
I was wrong. It was definitely not easier. But I told her, I was like, look, you're used to me running a business a certain way and being home a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, this is starting something brand new. I was like, I'm not going to be home very much. Like I make a pretty strong effort to be there as much as possible, especially for my little one. We have a 4-year-old as well. And so I try to be there and try to be active but I'll come home, hang out with them for like 3 hours. She's about to go to sleep and I'll come back to work. Right.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I wish you wouldn't go back to work. I'm like, me too.
Yeah.
But there's things that need to be done. We don't have the team to do it right now. So it's on me, and I have to get things done quickly, because if not, then the clients aren't going to be satisfied.
Yeah.
And like, we want them to be happy. They don't need to know that I'm killing myself to do these things.
Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of the day, like the market doesn't care.
Right.
Market doesn't care how long you get to work. They just want their product. They want their service.
Yep.
At the time that they expect to get it, with the quality they expect to get it. They don't care if you're killing yourself to do it.
Yep.
And honestly, they shouldn't, right? Like, this is the service you're providing. This is the role that you've stepped into, and you got to do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Yep.
So I appreciate you coming in today, man. Where can people find out more about Valiant?
www.valiantsupply.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Valiant Supply. That's honestly the easiest way to find it. On the social media feeds, I'm always uploading new designs that we do for clients and stuff. That's kind of how Valiant started and how it'll always be. It was always based on the design and artwork, so our social media reflects that. But in terms of, who we serve, client base, and what we do, valiantsupply.com, we also have an online portal for ordering. So we do custom patches and challenge coins and screen printing apparel and all sorts of embroidered projects, all sorts of stuff. But people can go on there, go through the online portal if they want to order something like that. It's very simple to use. And yeah, that's that.
Welcome to Built in Vegas, the podcast where we spotlight the stories, strategies, and resources behind the businesses that make Vegas thrive. Whether you're starting up or scaling up, you're in the right place. Brought to you by the Video Podcast Studio.